And one fine day, perhaps we shall even resurrect the dead. Call forth Lazarus from his cave.
Hey guys, it's Chris and welcome back to SmokeScreen for my first Westworld video of the season. First off, I apologize for not doing episodes 1 through 3, although I did do a live stream right after episode 1. But this had to be one of the best episodes of the season so far, and we had some great revelations in this episode as well, and we can kind of start to see the direction the show is going this season. So let's jump right into it. Westworld episode 4, The Riddle of the Sphinx. Alright, so our first big revelation was that James Delos, the owner of the Delos Corporation, who William made a deal with, now we know why he made the deal. He wanted to fucking live forever. But the big revelation is that he has died and he planned to import his mind into a host body, and apparently that didn't work because they tried 147 times. We kept seeing young William going to his supposed apartment and having the same conversation with him over and over, and we could see William age during this process. But he kept having the same conversation, bringing him the whiskey, and breaking the news that he did not survive, he did not recover, but they wouldn't let him go because they couldn't get him right, he was not stable. We started to see the handshake, very similar to Bernard, and it seems to be after he gave him the news that he was in fact a host, kind of a human-host hybrid, that he would start to glitch out, and apparently the longest they got him stable was about 35 days. And that brings us to the secret lab we've seen a few times now, but apparently this is the one that Charlotte and Bernard was in a few episodes back. And of course, remember, we're dealing with multiple timelines here, so it's hard to tell exactly what's happening when. But if you keep in mind that Bernard wakes up in the very beginning, the first episode, on the beach, we do see a lot of dead hosts and people out in the water, and Teddy was among them, so that has to be later on, probably more likely the end of the season, when the cavalry arrives. So keep that in mind as you go through the season, that the beginning of the season is more likely the end of the timeline here that we're going to see in season 2. So essentially what was revealed to us is the secret mission, so to speak, that Delos wanted to smuggle out of the park all this data into Abernathy and get him out of the park, was for this metaphorical fountain of youth so rich assholes could live forever. And essentially James Delos having some kind of disease, and he agreed to put his money into the park in the first place. So essentially he was the guinea pig here. That's what these secret labs are for, and we see Bernard go in and remember at some point that he went in on Ford's orders and printed another human memory core to put in another host body. And of course the big question is who that's for. Another big revelation we got during this episode is that Elsie lives. Elsie was not killed. We thought for sure she was choked out by Bernard in season 1, but it turns out that Ford just had her kind of chained up somewhere with some protein bars near this very lab. And of course Clementine's the one who brought Bernard there on purpose under Ford's orders. Remember, everything going on is still Ford's plan from beyond the grave, which brings up a big question about how the hell he's doing this when he's dead. And of course Elsie's a little bit pissed off about it since she got choked out by Bernard, but apparently he just took her there for safekeeping to keep her out of the way so she couldn't ruin the master plan. So that does show Ford didn't want to just kill everybody. So Ford is not completely innocent by any means. He's definitely killed some people to get them out of the way. And I really like this episode and how they did the flashbacks with Bernard here. You couldn't really tell when it was supposed to be, because that's the point here, is Bernard's memories are not in chronological order. They're not indexed properly. So that's why he's having such a hard time remembering things and what order they're in and when it happened. And which is why he always wakes up and says, "Is this now?" So Bernard is kind of fucked up. He's going to need repairing at some point. And I think this kind of gets into a theory that perhaps Ford is trying to bring back the original Arnold, which may be who we see on the beach when he wakes up in episode 1. Although they're calling him Bernard, that may be the actual human-host hybrid Arnold, who is actually in a host body. But there are some parallels there with the James Delos storyline where we saw the shaking, and they always seem to focus on Bernard's hand shaking. As he is breaking down, he keeps getting this cortical fluid as kind of a band-aid, but at some point he needs to be fixed, and I think that may be a little indication as to who that other human memory core was for. But I really enjoyed how they did the flashbacks here. Bernard would simply kind of glitch out, and all of a sudden it was a different time period in the same place. And of course he recognized that the lab was the place he was at with Charlotte. When he first realized what the hell Charlotte was trying to do, he couldn't quite figure that out, but he did finally remember they were trying to print this other human core. I did enjoy the reveal about James Delos not actually being in his apartment somewhere in California, but actually in Westworld in the lab itself. That was pretty cool when they showed the reveal that he had been tried 147 times, and after every episode where he starts to break down, they simply incinerate the place and start over. And of course, the last one we had old William, the man in black, probably right before the events of season 1, go in for the last time and say, you know what, I'm really starting to lose faith in this, lose confidence in this. I don't think humans should live forever, not even me. So I think you're definitely going to see a kind of a redemption arc on William the Man in Black as he starts to regret things he's done in his past. And that brings up the next point. He actually is with Lawrence, and he actually saves his family's life even though they're hosts. Now last year it was exactly the opposite. He killed Lawrence's family right there in the same location, but he started to have these flashbacks of the real world when his wife had killed himself, which is James Delos' daughter, by the way. And Lawrence is kind of the one who triggered this as well, because he did tell him that he remembered he had a daughter. So at some point Lawrence is starting to become aware and remembering past lives, past builds, etc. And he actually saved them from the Confederados and gave Lawrence the gun to blow up the asshole with the nitroglycerin, which was a good reversal and twist on last season, because William was the one responsible for getting the nitroglycerin in the first place. And then we see Lawrence's daughter speak with the voice of Ford again. Ford is watching William essentially. This is now, I believe, the third time during this season that William has been spoken to by Ford directly through a host. So it makes you wonder, why is Ford so interested in this game, and how is he controlling things beyond the grave? But what was really interesting here, and what would set up the end of this episode, is Ford told William through the girl's body, if you're looking forward, you're looking in the wrong direction. So I'm really interested to see how this whole game plays out, where this door actually is. It's not just an exit to the park. Everybody knows where the exit to the park is. You can simply get on the train and get out of there. William has been there many, many times, in and out, but there's some secret door. Perhaps that's a physical location, or something like the maze last year, where it's more of a metaphorical location, but that seems to be the game William is playing, and he seems fully committed. And of course, at the end of this episode, we get the big revelation that this girl from Westworld that we saw in episode 3, as far as another park goes, there seem to be 6 parks in the Delos Corporation, including Samurai World or Shogun World. I'm not sure which one they're calling it yet. I believe we'll see a lot more of that in the next episode. But the point being that she ends up coming across, being captured by the Ghost Nation along with Stubbs, and the Ghost Nation storyline seems to be they are protecting innocent people. So while you have like Dolores running around killing everybody, Ford is protecting the innocent humans in Westworld right now with the Ghost Nation. They are taking them hostage, but they seem to be doing it to protect them. So Ford is looking out for innocent people. And of course, you got to remember back in episode 1, which is the current most recent timeline with Bernard, Stubbs is alive and well, but she does escape this girl from the Ghost Nation, and they seem to let her go, but she seems to be a badass either way. And the big revelation was, as William rides off into the sunset heading west with Lawrence and company, they run into this girl, and of course the big revelation is that her name is Emily, and that actually is William's daughter. So that's going to be a big thing this season as they get to know each other again. I'm sure their relationship has not been great. They had a bunch of family issues. Obviously her mother died of suicide, so this will be an interesting dynamic here. And did Ford plan this for her to end up with William to help him along this path here of redemption, to play this game, to find this damn door? So overall, I thought this is the best episode by far this season. I love the way they worked the music in there. I love the Bernard flashbacks and the different timelines. This mainly focused on Bernard and the Man in Black, William, his storyline. So I really loved how they put this episode together. It wasn't such a mind bender this time, although there's still a lot of questions that remain in the second half of the season. They did reveal a few things that got us headed in the right direction. But I'll throw out to you guys, what did you guys think of this episode? And of course, the big question I'll throw out to you guys as well is, who do you think that other memory core was for? What other human is going to be a human-host hybrid? And remember, if that actually works, if Ford has mastered that technology before he died, which likely he has, there's probably already a human hybrid host running around already, and it's likely one of the characters we've already seen. I think one of the big candidates for this, as I mentioned before, is Arnold himself. You could have Ford having Arnold come back as a human host hybrid, and that could have been Arnold waking up on the beach in a host body. Of course, it could be William himself, the Man in Black. Maybe he potentially wanted to do this himself at some point and kind of used James Delos as a guinea pig and saw that it wasn't working out, and he started reflecting on his past and all that through this season. And he realized that humans are not supposed to live forever, and he's now against the idea, but that could have been for him in the first place. Or will he find out that it's already been done to him at some point, because perhaps he died somewhere and he wouldn't remember his own death, just like James Delos. So it could be that the Man in Black is already a human-host hybrid that Ford got to work, whereas the Delos Corporation obviously has a lot of smart technicians. They're always about 10 steps behind Ford. He's playing chess, they're playing checkers, and that's why he let Abernathy go, where they were trying to smuggle this data out of the park. He had already taken this data and mastered it, and I think that's what's going on so far, so we'll see in the rest of the season. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon, And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers, Lala Gig, Marylin, Bentley, Corotte, Goska, HoonJive, Horton, Erin, Habig, John, Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, DTizSmith, MJW, Carole Brown, D Brown, Mike Colton, Lisa Phillips, Alfred Borstmayer, Greene, and Ricky Corotte. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, head over to patreon.com/smokescreenvids, and all those links are in the description below. There are a lot of reward levels. We have a Discord server, and there will be some new reward levels added for executive producers as well, including monthly calls for the direction of this channel. And this book I'm working on, there will be some exclusive content there as well. And thank you to everyone on YouTube as well. I really appreciate all the support. And as usual, be sure to subscribe to get everything, and be sure to click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you